you doing?
Hi. So we're here to tell you all about the autumn equinox and giving our top tips this season and just the things that we've learnt during the lead up to seasonal changes.
So what are you doing during the seasonal change?
Well, I've just started today really stepping up on the juicing, and one of the things that I like to do leading into a seasonal change is have a much higher level of juice. So whereas I might do a pint a day of fresh juice, it sounds extreme, but I've done 2 to 4 pints today, and that's really helped to alkaline, because sometimes during a seasonal change, as leading into an equinox, particularly the equinoxes are much stronger than the solstices, the body goes into a detox, and as you're detoxifying, that can sometimes feel uncomfortable and bring on stronger cravings. So to avoid cravings for sugar, avoid cravings for the not so good fat, the hydrogenated fats, then alkalizing can make a huge difference. And of course juicing is really amazing for antioxidants, and at the moment when lots of people, as we move into the equinox, are getting a clearing, such as a cold or sort of toxicity leaving the body in some way, whether it be through the skin or through the digestive system. But the main thing really is that not to be afraid of having a detox, because colds are so useful for clearing space within the body. And if the body gets into overload, the natural thing is to have a cold. Now, the most worrying thing at the minute is that even babies are actually being suppressed, as in their colds are being suppressed via nasal flu vaccinations. Obviously older people go for that quite regularly if they buy into that. Now, vaccinations for a cold or flu really doesn't make sense, because the body will only have a cold if it needs a cold. So if something comes in to suppress that, then we have to ask, well, what's the next thing that's going to happen for the body? And often that leads to psychological problems, sometimes memory issues. I've seen in my practice, whether medics make the link or not, day to day when people have had, especially the flu vaccination, there's a huge link with difficulties with memory, confusion, especially in the older generation, because the level of mercury that's in these vaccinations. And so I'd like to really give my top tips also for memory balance, because as we move into the metal season in the Chinese system, there's a big focus on how to achieve clarity, how to get the best out of our minds, so that Steve will be going on to talk about that in a moment. But physically, if our mind is congested, and actually can be congested with physical toxicity or emotional toxicity, and the physical side of it is the main foods that really aggravate the mind and our clarity is sugar, white sugar particularly, processed sugar, and also the gluten. So there's lots of research now, and there's one particular book which is stating that there's very strong links between memory issues, mental health issues, and gluten and sugar. And the reason why is these actual products, they attack the brain, and because they go undigested really in the digestive system, but they also, sugar particularly, depletes B vitamins and other essential fatty acids. So my top tips for mental and emotional health, and particularly memory, would be really increasing the essential fatty acids, especially omega-3s, focusing on DHA, which you can get from algae, especially things like blue-green algae, and then moving towards more antioxidants with lots of juicing, and particularly a memory enhancer which I use quite a lot with clients is phosphatidylserine. It's a bit of a mouthful, but it's shortened phos-serine. So that's PHOS serine, SERINE, and that is what the brain cells need in order to function appropriately. And it also detoxifies mercury, heavy metals that get into the body through our food chain, through vaccinations, etc. And so that can have a really powerful impact quite quickly. Lecithin is another one which is quite well known. You can get sunflower lecithin these days if people don't want to do soya. And also using a good level of B vitamins, whether it be through diet, especially B12. That's a very important B vitamin that's so beneficial. And so that's my tips for the season. Just to reassure you, when toxicity comes out of the body, it is normal to have a cold. It is normal, and it should be welcomed. And as long as that cold is managed appropriately and you go into a detox, then a cold will not last more than 10 days, and that is a very beneficial thing for the body. Don't suppress it, let go of whatever is needed, and then that allows you to have a very healthy autumn season. So over to you, Steve.
Can I just rewind back there and when you said about the 2 to 4 pints of juice a day? I was just a little bit concerned if somebody had never done juice before. Would it be advised to have 2 to 4 pints of juice?
No. I think 2 to 4 pints is quite a high level, but I think go with what your body feels like as well. That felt really good, and it has no side effects for me. But if you haven't done juice, and obviously start very slowly, build up to the pint a day. Ideally, move towards green juice over sweet juices. And do it very gradually.
Cool, thank you. So enjoy implementing those tips with all of Emma's experience. And so I'm just going to give a few tips really on the mind. That's my thing I like to focus on. And one of the things that I tell my clients is a story about the wild dog. So if you keep feeding a wild dog from your doorstep, for example, every morning you put food out for him, he's going to keep on coming, right? Until you stop feeding him. So as soon as you stop feeding a wild dog, he's going to go somewhere else to find his food, right? So that can be used in relation to the mind. So our mind it's like the devil and the angel. We've got like the devil and the angel fighting for supremacy or fighting for attention. So when we got the mind coming up with negative stuff, i.e. the wild dog coming for the food, it's advisable, and this is what I suggest to my clients, to almost to ignore that and to really focus in and home in on the positivity. So it's focusing on the angel, focusing on the positivity, and as we know, what we focus on grows. So if we focus on the positivity and don't pay any attention to the negativity, that's going to go away, and then bit by bit, step by step, it's an ongoing thing. But step by step we can start to become friends with our mind, and our mind can become our best friend instead of being our worst enemy. So that's tip number 1. Tip number 2 is to not get distracted by other people's stuff. We've noticed it personally, and there's something we've really been focusing on this last year, 2017. We've really been focusing on not gossiping about other people's stuff, not speaking about other people negatively, for example, and really, because that can be a big distraction from ourselves. Sometimes our mind is trying to get some of our own stuff up, it's bubbling to the surface, some emotional stuff is coming to the surface, but we push that down by talking about other people's stuff. So instead, how about focusing on our own stuff, saying how we're really feeling, and then we'll find that there's, because we all find that there's not enough time in the day, so why are we wasting our time speaking about other people? Let's reel that back in, speak about ourselves, focus on ourselves, and that can really help us to focus in on our mind. And tip number 3 is something we were really blessed recently, last weekend in fact, to go away on a constellation weekend. And Emma's introduced me to constellation family therapy before. However, I've never really dived in and done a whole weekend of it with her teacher, Sarasi. It was a fantastic weekend. Constellation therapy, for anyone that doesn't know, is you use yourself or other people or other objects to almost to act out the scenario, what's going on for you at the moment. So if you've got a pressing problem or issue, or you've had a pressing problem or issue throughout generations in your family, for example, then you can put that problem into the space, and then each person or object will act out the energies of what's going on and help you get real clarity on what's going on. So I've had an introduction with Emma before. I found it was really profound because it really focuses in on that universal energy, that energy which is all around, that all-knowing intelligence, and it's really interesting. It's not, like I said, it was acting, that's the best way to explain it, but it's not acting, it's almost like someone else speaks through you. And yeah, so we did that last weekend, and it was absolutely fantastic, and I found that it's given me a lot of clarity leading into the seasonal change, because sometimes, like I was saying, things can start bubbling up leading into the seasonal change, so that has helped to give clarity, to get rid of some old stuff and make room for the new moving into the autumn season. So those are my 3 tips. So to just give you a brief overview of that: feeding the angel and not feeding the wild dog. And number 2, not getting distracted by other people's stuff. And number 3, to look at doing, it doesn't have to be constellation therapy, but looking at doing some type of therapy. It doesn't even have to be a therapy. It could be journal writing, something where you're able to express yourself, get those emotions out, and really focus on yourself. So those are my tips for the season.
I just wanted to add about the constellation therapy. The theory is through movement and through voicing what the problem may be for each individual within the family or within yourself, it brings the connection back, so that there's peace and love back in the space. And when peace and love is in the space, then everything flows again. When things are not fully expressed, then it can have a really big impact on how we function, but also our immediate connections, our partners, our family members. And therefore it's the connection that we're looking to bring back. And that Steve was mentioning journaling, that's just a wonderful way of connecting, isn't it, as well? Yeah,
and I can't resist giving another one there, because it's just like, some of you may have children, or you may be distracted, you may have like big commitments with work, for example, whatever it is that gets in the way of maybe your relationship, because a relationship is a separate entity to that. And I found that weekend, it's the first time that we've been away since having our 2 children. We love them dearly. It was the first time we've been away together, and really nourished our relationship, and it's brought us closer. So yeah, I couldn't resist getting that one in there. But yeah, thank you. I hope,
Equinox.
yeah, happy equinox, and enjoy leading into the autumn, and starting to leave the summer behind and moving into the autumn and the new energies. Lots of love, take care.